"I swear I'll kill you if I have to," she said, shivering. But the rancher stared in shock. The night was colder than she expected. The wind moved across the empty land, making soft, lonely sounds through the dry grass. The sky was dark and only a few weak stars were visible. A young woman walked along a dusty road, her steps uneven and slow. Her shoes were worn and her feet hurt, but she did not stop. Every step forward felt heavy, yet stopping felt even more dangerous. Her jacket was too thin for the cold, and she wrapped her arms around herself, trying to keep warm. Her hands were shaking, not only from the cold, but from fear that had followed her for hours. Her breathing was fast and shallow. She kept looking over her shoulder, even when there was nothing behind her. In her mind, she felt like someone was always just a few steps away. She had not planned to come to this place. In fact, she did not even know where she was anymore. All she knew was that she had to keep moving. The open land felt endless, and the silence was loud in its own way. Every small sound made her heart jump. The crunch of gravel under her feet sounded too loud. The wind brushing against a fence sounded like footsteps. Her mind was tired, but it refused to rest. Her thoughts went back to earlier that day. The fear had started long before the sun went down. It had grown slowly, then suddenly became too big to ignore. She had made a choice to leave, even though she did not know where she would go. It was not a brave choice. It was a desperate one. She did not feel strong. She felt trapped, and leaving felt like the only door that was still open. As she walked, her legs began to ache. Her mouth was dry and her throat burned with thirst. She had not eaten much, and her body felt weak. Still, something inside her pushed her forward. It was a quiet voice in her heart that said, "Just a little more. Just keep going." Then, in the distance, she saw a small light. At first, she thought her eyes were playing tricks on her. She blinked and looked again. The light was still there. It was faint, but it was real. A small house light standing alone in the wide, dark land. Hope and fear mixed inside her at the same time. Hope, because it meant people. Fear, because she did not know what kind of people. She slowed her steps and watched the light carefully. Her heart beat harder. Should she go closer? Should she hide and wait? Her mind went back and forth. She had trusted before, and it had not ended well. But she was tired of running. She was tired of being alone in the dark. Finally, she made herself move toward the light. With every step, her body felt heavier, but her hope grew just a little. The house slowly became clearer. It was a ranch house, simple and quiet, with a small porch and a few windows glowing softly. The land around it was wide and open. There was nowhere to hide if something went wrong. That thought made her nervous, but she kept going. When she reached the front of the house, she stopped. Her chest felt tight. Her hands trembled so much that she had to press them together. She stood there for a few seconds, listening. She did not hear voices. She did not hear music, only the sound of the wind and the soft night around her. She raised her hand to knock, then stopped. What if this was a mistake? What if she had walked into something worse? Her mind filled with questions, but her body was too tired to turn back. Slowly, she knocked on the door. The sound felt loud in the quiet night. She stepped back a little and waited. Her heart pounded in her ears. Every second felt longer than it really was. She thought about running again, but her legs felt weak. She stayed where she was. After a moment, she heard movement inside. The door opened slowly. A middle-aged rancher stood there. He was tall, with tired eyes and a calm but serious face. He looked surprised to see someone standing there so late at night. He took in her appearance in just a few seconds. The dirt on her clothes, the way she was shaking, the fear in her eyes. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The woman's mind felt like it was spinning. 1,000 thoughts ran through her head at once. She did not know what to say. She did not know how to explain herself. All she knew was that she was scared, cold, and at the edge of her strength. The rancher opened his mouth to speak, but before he could say anything, the words came out of her. "I swear. I'll hurt you if I have to," she said, her voice shaking badly. "Please don't come any closer." Her words sounded strong, but her body told a different story. Her shoulders were hunched, her hands trembled, her eyes were wide with fear, not anger. The rancher froze. He stared at her in shock. He had expected someone to ask for help, or maybe directions. He did not expect a frightened woman making a threat on his doorstep. His mind tried to understand what was happening. He did not see danger in her. He saw fear, deep, real fear. He slowly raised his hands a little, showing he meant no harm. "Easy," he said calmly. "I'm not here to hurt you." The woman took a small step back, keeping distance between them. Her breathing was fast. Her eyes moved from his face to his hands and back again. She was watching everything. Every small movement felt important to her. The rancher noticed the marks on her arms and the exhaustion on her face. He could tell she had been through something hard. He could also tell that her threat was not something she wanted to say. It was something that came from being scared for too long. He did not move closer. He did not raise his voice. "You look like you need help," he said gently. The woman swallowed hard. Her throat felt tight. She wanted to trust him. She also wanted to protect herself. Her heart and her fear were fighting each other. I just needed somewhere to stop," she said quietly. "Just for a minute." The rancher nodded slowly. "You can stand there as long as you need," he said. "I'm not going to rush you." The cold wind blew again, and she shivered harder. The rancher noticed and felt a pull of concern. He had lived alone for a long time, but he had not lost his sense of care for others. He could see she was at the end of her strength. "You're freezing," he said. "I can get you a blanket if you want. I'll leave it on the porch." She hesitated, then gave a small, unsure nod. He stepped back inside slowly, keeping his movements calm and clear. She watched him closely until he came back with a blanket. He placed it on a chair near the door and stepped back again. "There," he said. "You can take it if you want." She waited a second, then slowly stepped forward and grabbed the blanket. She wrapped it around her shoulders tightly. The warmth made her eyes close for just a moment. Her body reacted before her mind did. For the first time in hours, she felt a small bit of comfort. Still, her fear did not disappear. She stayed standing, holding the blanket, looking at the rancher with tired, careful eyes. He stood in the doorway, giving her space. The silence between them was heavy, but not unkind. Inside her, a small voice said that maybe, just maybe, this place could be safe for a little while. But another voice reminded her that she had thought that before, and she had been wrong. So she stayed alert. The rancher, still standing there, felt the weight of the moment. He did not know her story. He did not know what she had escaped from. But he knew one thing clearly. This was not a woman looking for trouble. This was a woman running from something that had already hurt her. And that was how their first meeting began. Not with trust, not with peace, but with fear. Cold wind and a single light in the dark that had brought a scared stranger to a ranch door, hoping, without fully believing, that safety might finally be close. The woman stood on the porch, wrapped in the blanket, while the cold air moved quietly around her. The rancher remained in the doorway, giving her space, just as he promised. Neither of them spoke for a few moments. The silence was not empty. It was filled with unspoken questions, fear, and careful thinking from both sides. The rancher had lived alone for many years. He was used to quiet nights and early mornings. His life followed simple routines. He fed the animals, fixed fences, and spent long hours with only the sound of the wind and the land for company. Seeing a frightened stranger at his door was not part of his normal world. Still, he did not feel anger or suspicion first. What he felt was concern. He studied her without staring. He noticed the way her shoulders were tense, as if she expected something bad to happen at any second. He noticed how her eyes kept moving, checking the dark land behind her. He had seen fear before in animals caught in storms or injured in the fields. What he saw in her eyes looked very similar. It was the look of someone who had been pushed too far. "You don't have to explain anything right now," he said gently. "You can just breathe for a minute." She nodded slightly but did not relax. Her hands were still tight around the blanket. The warmth helped her body, but her mind was still racing. Every part of her was telling her to stay ready, to stay alert. She had learned that feeling safe could disappear very quickly. The rancher slowly stepped back a little more, opening the door wider but still keeping his distance. "If you want," he said, "you can come inside. It's warmer. You can stand near the door if that makes you feel better." She looked at the open doorway. The warm light inside felt inviting. She could see a simple living room, clean but plain. A small table, a couch, a lamp. Nothing looked fancy or dangerous. Still, stepping inside felt like a big decision. Outside, she could run. Inside, she would be more trapped. Her heart beat harder as she thought. I don't want to be trapped," she said quietly. "I understand," the rancher replied. "You can stay right by the door. I won't close it." That small promise mattered to her. Slowly, carefully, she took a few steps inside. She stayed close to the door, just as she said she would. The warmth inside the house wrapped around her like another blanket. Her body almost wanted to sink to the floor from tiredness, but she forced herself to stay standing. The rancher moved to a chair across the room and sat down slowly. He made sure to sit where she could see him clearly. He did not want to surprise her with any sudden movement. "You can sit if you want," he said. "Or you can stand. Whatever feels right." She stayed standing for a while, then slowly lowered herself onto the edge of a chair near the door. She did not lean back. She stayed ready to move, if needed. Her eyes stayed on him, watching his face, his hands, the way he sat. The rancher noticed this and did not take it personally. He understood that trust was not something she could give easily. He brought her a glass of water and placed it on a small table near her, then stepped back again. "You look thirsty," he said. She hesitated, then picked up the glass. Her hands shook slightly as she drank. The water felt cool and good in her dry throat. She did not realize how thirsty she was until that moment. She drank slowly, like she was afraid the water might disappear. "Thank you," she said softly. The rancher nodded. For a few moments they sat in quiet. The clock on the wall made a soft, ticking sound. Outside, the wind continued to move through the land. The house felt like a small island of light in a very big, dark world. The rancher's mind was full of questions, but he chose his words carefully. "Is someone looking for you?" he asked, not pushing, just asking. Her body stiffened. Her fingers tightened around the glass. "I don't know," she said. "Maybe. I couldn't stay where I was." He did not ask where that was. He could see that even this much was hard for her to say. "You're safe here for now," he said. "No one knows you're here." Those words made her eyes fill with tears, even though she tried to hold them back. She turned her face slightly, not wanting him to see too much. She had not heard the word safe in a long time. Hearing it out loud felt strange. Part of her wanted to believe it. Another part was afraid to. "I don't want trouble," she said. "I didn't mean what I said outside. I was just scared." "I know," the rancher said. "I could see that." His calm voice helped her breathe a little easier. For the first time since she arrived, her shoulders dropped just a bit. The tension was still there, but it was not as tight. The rancher leaned back slightly in his chair, keeping his body language open and relaxed. "You can stay for a while," he said. "You can rest. You don't have to decide anything tonight." She looked up at him, surprised. "You'd really let me stay?" she asked. He nodded. "Yes, for the night at least. We'll figure out tomorrow later." The idea of rest felt almost too good to be true. Her eyes felt heavy. Her body felt like it had been running for days, even if it had only been hours. She did not want to fall asleep in front of a stranger, but her body did not care about her fears. "I don't want to be a problem," she said. "You're not," he replied. "You're a person who needed help. That's all." Those simple words stayed with her. The rancher stood up slowly. "I'll make some tea," he said. "It'll help you warm up." She watched him move around the kitchen area. His movements were slow and steady. There was nothing rushed or sharp about him. The sound of water heating and cups being placed on the counter filled the room with small, normal sounds. Those sounds made the space feel more real, more safe. When he brought her a cup, he placed it on the table and stepped back again. She wrapped her hands around the warm cup. The heat moved into her fingers and then into her arms. She took a small sip. The warmth felt good inside her, too. For a moment, she closed her eyes. That was when she realized how tired she truly was. Her mind tried to stay alert, but her body was slowly winning. Her breathing became slower. Her head felt heavy. The fear was still there, but it was quieter now, pushed back by warmth, light, and a calm voice in a small house in the middle of nowhere. The rancher noticed her eyes closing and opening again. "You can rest," he said. "I'll be right here." She nodded, not trusting her voice. She leaned back just a little in the chair, still holding the blanket and the warm cup. She did not fully sleep, but she rested. It was the first real rest she had felt since everything went wrong. The rancher sat quietly, listening to the clock and the wind, watching over a stranger who had walked out of the dark and into his life. He did not know how this story would end. He did not know what tomorrow would bring. But he knew this. Whatever she had run from, it had taken great strength for her to leave it behind. And for this one night at least, he would make sure she did not have to face the darkness alone. Morning light slowly filled the ranch house. The soft orange glow came through the windows and touched the walls, the floor, and the simple furniture. The night, which had felt so long and heavy, was finally over. The quiet of early morning was different from the quiet of the night. It felt lighter, calmer, and full of small new beginnings. The woman woke up slowly. For a moment she did not remember where she was. Her body felt warm, and she was wrapped in a blanket. Then the memories returned. The road. The cold, the porch, the fear. She opened her eyes fully and looked around. She was in the same chair, but now the room looked different in the daylight. It felt less scary. It looked smaller and more real. The rancher was already awake. She could hear soft sounds from the kitchen. The smell of coffee and warm bread filled the air. She sat up a little straighter. Her body still felt tired, but it was a better kind of tired. The kind that comes after rest, not after running. She took a deep breath. For the first time in a long while, she did not feel like she had to run right away. The rancher came into the room with 2 cups of coffee and a small plate of food. He moved slowly, just like he had the night before. "Good morning," he said gently. "Good morning," she replied, her voice quiet but steadier than before. He placed the food on the table near her and stepped back. "You should eat," he said. "You need your strength." She looked at the food. Simple eggs, bread, and fruit. Nothing fancy. But to her, it looked like something very special. She had not eaten properly in a long time. Her stomach felt tight just looking at it. Not from pain, but from emotion. "Thank you," she said, and this time her voice carried more feeling. She picked up a piece of bread and took a small bite. The taste was simple and warm. Her eyes closed for just a second as she chewed. It felt like a small piece of normal life, something she thought she had lost. They ate mostly in silence. It was not an uncomfortable silence. It was calm, the kind of quiet that lets people think. The rancher watched her carefully, not in a strange way, but in a protective way. He could see that she was still carrying fear inside her, but he could also see something else now. He could see tired courage, the kind of courage that comes from someone who has been pushed to the edge and still chose to move forward. After a while, he spoke. "We should talk about what comes next," he said softly. "Not in a rush, just when you're ready," she nodded slowly. "I know," she said. "I can't stay forever." "I'm not saying you have to leave right now," he replied. "I just want to make sure you're safe in the long run." That word again. Safe. She looked down at her hands. Her fingers were no longer shaking like before, but they still felt tight. "I don't want to go back," she said. "Where I came from, it wasn't good for me." He could hear enough in her voice to understand. "You don't have to go back," he said. "There are other options." She looked up at him, unsure. "Like what?" she asked. He leaned back slightly in his chair. "There are people and places that can help," he said. "Folks who know how to protect people who need a fresh start." The idea scared her and comforted her at the same time. New places meant new risks, but staying stuck in the past was not an option either. "I'm tired of running," she admitted, "but I'm also scared of staying in one place." "That makes sense," he said. "After what you've been through, your mind is just trying to protect you." She was quiet for a moment. "Why are you helping me?" she asked. "You don't even know me." The rancher thought about that for a second. "I don't need to know everything about you," he said. "I just need to know that you're human, and you needed help. That's enough for me." His words stayed with her. They were simple, but they carried weight. Later that morning, the rancher stepped outside to check on the animals. The woman watched him through the window. She saw how gentle he was with them, how calm and steady his movements were. It told her more about him than any long speech could. For the first time, she allowed herself to imagine a future that was not just about escape. When he came back inside, he held his phone. "I can make some calls," he said. "Not to force you into anything. Just to see what help is available." Her heart beat faster. Big steps scared her, but doing nothing scared her more. "Okay," she said quietly. "But can you stay with me while you call?" "Of course," he said without hesitation. He sat at the table and began making calls. He spoke calmly and clearly. He did not share more than was needed. He focused on finding safe, real options. The woman listened to his voice, holding on to the sound of it. It made her feel less alone. After a while, he ended the last call. "There's a place that can help you get started," he said. "They can offer you a safe place, help you figure out your next steps, and connect you with people who care." Her chest felt tight again, but not in the same way as before. This was a different kind of fear. The fear of change. The fear of hope. "What if I can't do it?" she asked. "What if I fail again?" He looked at her with steady eyes. "Then you try again," he said. "Failing doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human." Those words made her eyes fill with tears. This time she did not turn away. She let them fall quietly. "I didn't think anyone would care," she said. "I thought I was completely alone." "You're not alone right now," he said. "And you don't have to be alone later either." The rancher helped her pack the few things she had. There was not much: a small bag, a few personal items, things that carried memories, both good and bad. As she placed them inside, she felt like she was closing one chapter of her life, even if she didn't know what the next chapter would look like. Before they left, she stood in the living room and looked around one last time. This small, simple house had become a place of safety for her, even if only for a short time. It was the place where she stopped running for the first time in a long while. Outside, the sun was higher now. The land looked wide and open, but it no longer felt as frightening. It felt full of possibility. As they walked toward the truck, she paused. "I said something terrible when I first came here," she said quietly.
"I didn't mean it."
"I know," he said. "Fear makes people say things they don't really feel." She nodded. "Thank you for seeing past that," she said. He gave a small, kind smile. "Sometimes people don't need to be judged," he said. "They just need to be understood." She took a deep breath and got into the truck. As they drove away from the ranch, she looked back once, not with sadness, but with gratitude. What started as a place of shock and fear had become a place of choice and strength. The rancher had made a simple but powerful decision to help, and she had made a brave decision to accept that help. Neither of them knew exactly what the future would bring, but for the first time in a long time, the future did not feel like a dark road. It felt like a road that, while uncertain, was finally leading somewhere better. The drive away from the ranch was quiet at first. The truck moved slowly down the long dirt road, and dust lifted softly behind them. The woman sat in the passenger seat, holding her small bag close to her chest. She looked out the window at the wide land, watching fences, trees, and open fields pass by. Each mile felt like another small step away from the fear that had ruled her life for so long. The rancher kept both hands on the wheel. He drove calmly, focused on the road, but also aware of the quiet person sitting beside him. He did not push her to talk. He understood that her mind was full, sorting through feelings she had not had time to face before. For her, the silence was not empty. It was full of thoughts. She thought about how close she had come to giving up. She thought about the cold road, the dark sky, and the small light that had saved her from being completely alone. She thought about how strange it felt that a stranger had shown her more kindness than many people she had known for years. After a while, she spoke. "I don't know what I would have done if your light wasn't on," she said quietly. The rancher nodded. Sometimes small things make a big difference, he said. You found that light because you kept going. She thought about his words. She had not felt strong while she was walking. She had felt scared and tired. But now, looking back, she could see that she had not stopped. That meant something. They reached the edge of a small town after some time. It was not a big place, but it had more buildings, more people, and more movement than the ranch. The woman felt nervous as they drove through the streets. New places still made her heart beat faster, but she also felt something else. She felt a small sense of control. They stopped near a simple building that worked with people who needed a fresh start. It was not fancy. It was not scary either. It looked clean, calm, and steady, the kind of place that tried to offer help without making people feel small. The rancher parked the truck. "This is it," he said. "You don't have to go in alone if you don't want to." She looked at the building. Her hands tightened around her bag. "Can you come with me?" she asked. "Of course," he said. They walked to the door together. Each step felt heavy, but also important. When they went inside, a kind woman at the front desk greeted them. Her voice was calm and respectful. She did not look at the woman with judgment. She looked at her with understanding. The rancher spoke for a moment, explaining that the woman needed help and a safe place to start over. The worker listened carefully and nodded. "You're in the right place," the worker said to the woman. "We'll take good care of you." Hearing those words made her chest feel tight again. But this time, the feeling was mixed with relief. They were shown into a small room to talk. The worker asked gentle questions. The woman answered what she could. She did not share everything. She did not have to. The worker made it clear that she was in control of how much she wanted to say. That mattered. For so long, she had felt like her life was controlled by fear and by other people's choices. Sitting there, being asked instead of told, made her feel something new. It made her feel respected. When the meeting was over, the worker explained the next steps: where she would stay, who she could talk to, what kind of support was available. It was a lot of information, but it was also a lot of hope. The woman nodded, trying to take it all in. Then came the moment she had been quietly dreading. It was time to say goodbye to the rancher. They stood outside the building for a moment. Cars passed by. People walked along the sidewalk, living their normal lives. It felt strange that the world kept moving when her life had just changed so much. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice shaking a little. "You don't have to," he replied. "Just take care of yourself. That's thanks enough." She looked at him, really looked at him. This man, who had been a stranger less than a day ago, had changed the direction of her life. "You believed me when I didn't even believe in myself," she said. He gave a small, gentle smile. "You did the hardest part," he said. "You walked away from something that was hurting you. I just opened a door." Tears filled her eyes again. She stepped forward and gave him a brief, careful hug. It was not a long hug. It did not need to be. It was full of meaning. "Good luck," he said softly. "You too," she replied. She watched him walk back to his truck. When he drove away, she stood there for a moment, holding her bag and watching the road. For a second, she felt that old feeling of being alone try to come back, but it did not stay. She turned and walked back into the building. Inside, her new life was waiting. The days that followed were not easy. Healing never is. She had good days and hard days. Some mornings she woke up feeling strong. Other mornings, old fears tried to creep back into her thoughts. But now, she was not facing them alone. People who understood what it meant to start over. She learned small steps to rebuild her life. She learned how to trust again. Slowly, she learned that her past did not have to control her future. Little by little, she changed. She found her voice again. She found her confidence again. It did not happen all at once. It happened in small moments. A kind conversation, a good night's sleep, a day where she felt proud of herself for simply getting through. She often thought about the ranch, about the cold night, about the light in the window, about the man who did not judge her by her fear. Those memories became a source of strength instead of pain. One afternoon, weeks later, she stood by a window in her new place and looked outside. The sun was bright, the sky was clear. She realized something important. She was no longer running. She was moving forward. The words she had spoken that night, the ones filled with fear, no longer defined her. What defined her now were her choices. The choice to leave. The choice to accept help. The choice to believe that she deserved a better life. Somewhere far away, the rancher had returned to his quiet routines. He fed his animals. He fixed fences. He lived his simple life. But he carried a quiet knowledge with him. On one cold night, he had chosen to open his door. And that simple choice had helped someone find her way back to herself. Two lives had crossed for a short time. One needed help, one offered it. And because of that moment, a frightened woman became a strong woman who knew that even in the darkest night, a single light can be enough to guide someone toward a better tomorrow.